Hi guys, it is me Bishop J from Camp Gilgal TV. That's right, from Camp Gilgal TV. Today is a part 2 of our Old Testament Bible survey of the book of Ezra. And you are precisely on Camp Gilgal TV Bible Study one-on-one. And I will continue on what I left last time. This is a part 2 of the video of Old Testament book of Ezra Bible survey of the second part of it. I will give you the featuring of this book. There is a special feature that you found in the book of Ezra. Number one is the record fulfillment of a prophecy of Jeremiah. You need to understand that Jeremiah prophesies, when you read the book of Jeremiah, he prophesies the captivity of the people of Israel in Babylon and the duration of their captivity, which was 70 years. At the end of that, they will come back. And then we see in the book of Ezra is the fulfillment of that prophecy. Also, the intercessory prayer of Daniel helped a lot when you read Daniel chapter 9, verse 1 to 19. Number 2 feature in this book of Ezra is Judah went into captivity under 3 leaders. Leader number 1 is Joachim, 2nd Chronicle chapter 36 verse 5 to 7. Leader number 2 is Joachim, 2nd Kings chapter 24 verse 11 and 16. Leader number 3 is Zedekiah, 2nd Kings chapter 25 verse 1 to 10. This is the way they went to Babylon. And the captivity was not a once off, it was in 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. I have some idea on that. I'm not going to develop it in this book today. And number 3 is Israel returned from captivity under also 3 leaders. So they went 3 times and they come also 3 times. Number 1, they came, the first lot who went out is under Zerubbabel. You find it in Ezra chapter 2 verse 1 and 2. And the second one is under Ezra chapter 8 verse 1, and the third one is under Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 11. Then the way also they came out of captivity. They did not come at once. They came first lot, second lot, and the third one and the final one, as they went also 1, 2, 3. And then number 4 you find in this book of feature you find in the book of Ezra is this book contain royal decrees. There is 4 royal decrees that you found in the book of Ezra. Decree number 1 you find it by King Cyrus, is king of Persia, permitted the Jew to return to Palestine. That is Ezra chapter 1 verse 2 and 4. If you watch my first podcast, you will see even how King Cyrus' name came about and why he was chosen by God. Even God called him anointed one. You must see that. Second one is by King Arta. I always have a confusion or difficulty to pronounce that name. I don't want to insult some people, please excuse me for that. Is Ezra chapter 4 verse 17 and verse 22. He stopped the work of rebuilding of the temple. Then the decree number 3 is by King Darius. King Darius permitted the work to be rebuilt again, to be resumed again, to be precise. That you find it by Ezra chapter 6 verse 1 to verse 12. And decree number 4, you find it by King Artaxerxes, that king has again permitted Ezra to lead a company of Jewish people back to Palestine. That is Ezra chapter 7 from verse 11 to verse 26. There is, in this book of Ezra, it contains 2 copy letters written by the adversary of the Jew. Remember, when you do God works, they always people who want to oppose God's works. God's works cannot be done easily. I'm telling you, I have some experience on that in my small ministry works that I'm doing for the Lord. There's always opposition. There's always opposition. And the opposition number one, you find it in Ezra chapter 4, from verse 7 to verse 16. It was by the name of Rehum and Shimshai, who was opposing the work of rebuilding the temple. And opposition number two, you find it in the book of Ezra chapter 5, from verse 6 to 17, by the governor Tatnai and others, who was also opposing the rebuilding of the temple. Especially if you want to do something where people will come to worship God, you will find resistance, and Satan will touch people to resist you. People will want even to leave you. You even wonder what I've done wrong. I'm telling you, I know what I'm speaking about. Now, the outline of the book of Ezra. There is a two-main outline in the book of Ezra. Number one is the return under Zerubbabel as a leader. You find it from chapter 1 to chapter 6, when they return to come to start the work, because they obeyed the decree of King Cyrus. Only 74 Levites came back. Remember, many of them did not want to come back because they say there is things that are going there is not good enough. And then 4,000 priests also came back. And the first things they did the erection of the altar. Remember, the temple was destroyed for 70 years. There is no more temple. There is no place of altar. The altar is the condition. You cannot have the temple without the altar. That's where they gave the sacrifices to God. It is the core, let me put it that way. It's the core of their worship. They start by rebuilding the altar, chapter 3, verse 1 to 7. Before even they start doing their own houses, they started by building the altar. God must be first in your life. God must be first of everything you do. God must be first. And the altar in the type of us Christian today is the cross and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. If you never pass by the cross of Jesus and the resurrection of Jesus, your work of faith is not good enough. Your atonement, the atoning work of Christ must always be passed by the cross and the resurrection. And they start rebuilding the temple. It took them 23 years of stopping doing the job of rebuilding the temple. They started rebuilding the temple and they stopped and they start building their own houses and getting richer and richer. When you read the book of Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah the prophet, then you will understand why God raised Haggai and Zechariah to come and push them to do the work of God. And then they became again doing that work of God. Now, the second outline is the return under Ezra. When Ezra came back, it was at 57 years later after them coming out of Babylon. That is from chapter 7 to chapter 10. The temple is already standing up. The temple is already beautified, standing up. The priest and the princess and all are purified, and all the work of God is there. And then Ezra, who loved the word, his love of God's word was second to none. I love that. It was second to none. He loved God's word. He gave himself. You read Ezra chapter 7, verse 10. That is the key verse of this book of Ezra. These men love God. These men have a faith to God. We need today to have an example of Ezra, of loving God and loving the word of God. And then he gave himself there, he restored everything, he made them to have. In this book of Ezra, we have learned to arrive to this separation. It's not like today we are so compromising too much in the church. That's why we're not roaring anymore. That's why church is being bullied by everybody, because church is compromised. And church, as is compromised, they know what to do. We learn something is very important in the book of Ezra. Number one, first one is separation from Babylon. When God said, go back, get out of Babylon. Babylon is a type of the world, as like Egypt also is a type of the world. You need to be separated. Number two is from worldly help. You as a church, you don't want to have the help of a worldly person. People in sin, people fornicate, people do commit adultery, who gays and other, they have no right to come and help you. Number three is from leaning on the arm of the flesh. Those who want to lean on the arm of the flesh, we need to separate. Another separation is from sinful alliances. We need to separate it from sinful alliance. You find it in chapter 10, verse 10 and 11. From leaning on the flesh, you find it from chapter 8, verse 21 and 23. From the worldly help, you find it in chapter 4. From Babylon, you find it in chapter 1. Now, I will conclude by the content of every chapter you found in the book of Ezra. Chapter 1 is King Cyrus' decree. You find it there, and the gift that he gave it to them. And when God, I love that verse 1, God is the one who stirred him up to come to tell them to go back to their land. Chapter number 2, the content is 49,897 returned to Jerusalem with Zerubbabel. 49,000 people, 897 decided to return. Either they wanted to stay to eat the caviar and the steak of Babylon. They did not want to go back to God. Number 3 is the altar feast. The altar and the feast and the beginning of the temple. Number 4 is, the content is the adversary request and the refusal and the opposition. You find it in chapter 4. In chapter 5 is rebuilding resumed after 22 years of stopping rebuilding the temple. Number 6 is Darius command help instead of opposition. Chapter 7 is Ezra authorized to take men and treasure to Jerusalem. All the treasure of the temple that was brought to Babylon was commanded it back again to Jerusalem. Chapter 8 is Ezra proclaim fast, and there is a prosper in their journey. There is prosperity. God, when you work for God, God always will prosper those who work for him. Prosperity came hand in hand on those who do God work. Chapter 9 is Ezra grief and prayer over people's sins. He grieved and prayed for the people who were in sinful condition. Chapter 10, which is the last chapter, is Ezra actions, the covenant, and the people separations. Then we found that 49,897 people who came with Zerubbabel at about 536 BC. 536 BC. Now, 1,754, some were of the tribe of Ephraim and some were of the tribe of Manasseh. You find that in 1 Chronicle chapter 9, verse 3. God bless you. That was the Bible survey of the book of Ezra. And the next time I'll choose another book. I said to you, I'll do it randomly. I'm not going to do it in a chronological way. I'll choose it randomly and I'll give it to you. I hope the Lord has touched you and you understand and you know something from the book of Ezra. God bless you. Keep subscribing and keep sharing the link and tell others to follow us on Camp Gilgal TV Bible Study 1-on-1 with Bishop J. I love you all. God bless you. Bye.